He got nominated for several Razzies, including Worst Supporting Actor for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was in this film. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fine Cut Podcast once again. Today it is, as always, Hayden and myself, and we have a guest, Josh King. Say hello, matey. But before we get into it, only 33% of you are actually subscribed. So if you like to subscribe, please do so. It's free. You can always unsubscribe later and get back to it. Now, what's been happening in the week? What's been happening this week?
Well, we can talk about the Mars landing, I guess.
Oh, endurance. What do we feel to that?
Endurance. It's going to be its first step into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first step in, what Elon Musk is trying to get Mars colonized by 2030. Is it something like that? I'm not sure.
Date always keeps moving, but
it's
It's
interesting to send a rover all the way to Mars just to shoot the video vertical instead of horizontal. That feels like an absolute waste of time.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, they may have shot it horizontal, but the one I saw on Twitter was vertical, so.
Just like a fisheye lens. Just
Shoot it all, lads. Why not? Like,
oh, why did they bother going to Mars to take that photo? They could have gone to the desert and just took it there.
or if you're Doctor Who, just go to Cardiff.
Yeah, just any old quarry. Or was it the same quarry time after time?
Oh. I mean, you don't want to get the flat earthers triggered, do you? with all the jokes, that you took that in the Sahara Desert. What are you on about?
Sorry, I didn't realise this was a Globehead podcast. I thought this was a pro flat Earth podcast. I think we should have really talked about that beforehand.
The moon landings were fake.
Just a disclaimer with that, we're not.
Oh man, it's
just a disclaimer with that, Just a disclaimer with that, we respect people's beliefs, but we kind of don't agree with the flat Earth theory. Just to put it out there.
I mean, there's at this point there's so much evidence to suggest that the world's not flat that it is. Also about flat earthing, if you believe in flat Earth, is climate change even more severe? Because if all the ice melts, which is around the edge of the world, won't all the water fall off if it's flat?
Yeah, that's the point. Gonna run out of water.
Yeah. Like literally, if you are a flat earther, you've got to be super duper pro stopping climate change because all that water is just going to flow off the earth.
Well, rising sea levels, it'll sort out itself. It'll go back down again. There you go.
Yeah, all that stuff about the Antarctica is just fake, It's all there just to control us.
Yeah, it's just all like the military boats apparently turn people away. Yeah. Oh no, go back, can't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the UN has put like a small little Easter egg in their own flag. Like, okay.
It's good. I mean, at least they're having fun. We can't deny that.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary on it, and apparently it started from a guy who was on the internet or something like that, and he looked. There was this land across, because he was at the seaside, and he could see this land across the sea, and he was like, "Well, how can the Earth be round if I can see that land?" I'm like, "Well, the Earth's quite big,
Yeah. To each their own, certainly.
Yeah.
But do you think we'll find evidence of life on Mars?
Didn't they find that water?
I was going to say back to Mars. Yeah, it was like microfibers, wasn't it? Somewhat like that. Microorganisms, wasn't it?
Oh,
in the water.
Or was it just water? Because was that back in 2009, 2008?
It was something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. It's I think they're saying it's possible it could have had life in the past, maybe.
Right.
They're just gonna
And
make sure.
there's been some.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's been some speculation over like fossils and stuff like that. Like fossils on the planet resembling like creatures, but maybe that's just our like imagination. That's what we interpret it as, and it's not actually that. Maybe it's a very
the human
spooky,
desire,
isn't it?
The human desire to find patterns and like things we recognize. Like the fact that you can look at clouds and find shapes just because your brain's like, I've got to find a shape that I recognize, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Which is it's why it's that's like cinema's greatest trick, is because people love staring at faces. So like movies obviously just purely speak to that desire to stare at things' faces. It's like, there's a face, and stare at that.
Well, speaking of cinema, what was the other thing that you wanted to discuss?
I mean, I don't want to, because Martin Scorsese, as we know, is a legendary director. I can never take that away from him. I respect him so much as a director, but he said some stuff in an essay recently about streaming and going back to Marvel films. Actually, something he said in 2019, wasn't it? He was saying how it was devaluing cinema. So what are your thoughts on this?
Go on, Josh.
Oh, you want me to go first? I think gatekeeping cinema is something, well, gatekeeping any kind of art is like inherently incredibly wrong. Like, a movie is a movie no matter what it's shot on or where it's watched. A film doesn't have to be shot on 70mm and viewed on a 70mm projector to be classed as a movie. It's again, lots of respect for Martin Scorsese, but he does have the capacity to be incorrect, and I think in this instance he's wrong. Like, I don't think streaming is what, like Disney Plus is like £6 a month, and you can watch. Admittedly, you can only watch like the Disney category, but you could watch a film every day, and a family probably couldn't afford. Well, obviously, in the before times, but a family probably couldn't afford to go to the cinema every day to watch a movie, whereas you could put Disney Plus on every day and you could watch a film every day. And and if this is all about just watching movies, arguably streaming is better value for money than going to the cinema is. And also, you can pause the film and go for a wee, which you can't do at the cinema. And again, I get it. Like films, like maybe you do lose something from watching a film on an iPhone, but like there's probably a healthy middle ground, and I think just saying streaming doesn't count is probably wrong. It's like, I'll admit, the first time I watched what's it called, Dunkirk, was I was sat on a train looking at somebody across the train watching it on an iPad whilst I was listening to different music. And that was my first experience of Dunkirk. And I admit, that probably wasn't how Christopher Nolan wanted that film to be watched. But like, if let people watch films however they're going to watch them, it's, if your film is good, it should hold up on a laptop as much as it holds up on a cinema screen, It's if your film's only good if it's watched when it's being like projected at you, across a wall, maybe your film's not that engaging. I don't know.
Agree with you there, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, David Lynch bashed iPhones a few years ago, didn't he? I think I already mentioned this actually in a previous episode about
again,
watching stuff on iPhones.
again, like one of my favorite directors, but just wrong. Like, that feels out of place because like David Lynch was like one of the first filmmakers to adapt like shooting on like tape as well. He's kind of always been at the forefront of that like technology. And I'm certain he's probably changed his mind since because he did make that short film exclusively for Netflix. Like, also, didn't Martin Scorsese shoot something exclusively for Netflix as well? Actually, is now coming to think of it. Yeah, like,
yeah, The Irishman.
Yeah, like literally a film that he couldn't get made any other way. Like, so you can't have your cake and eat it too, can you? You can't be like streaming's bad. Also, watch my film on Netflix. It is Mank.
I believe it got
Mank,
released in cinema, didn't it?
Did it? Yeah, I assume probably got released in cinema, so it was eligible for Oscars. Because that's another thing. Like, if your film doesn't go to a cinema ever, it can't be nominated for an Oscar, which feels a bit gatekeepy.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't art be for all? It should not just be for people who've got the budget to get a film distributed.
You mentioned Mank. Compared to Fincher, Fincher obviously started out like with music videos, and then he went into like film. But ever since House of Cards, he's been like, hold on a minute, like all this streaming holds up this this massive untapped potential, like because he's always been on that forefront of like pushing narrative, pushing the medium, even with like visual effects or shooting digital. Social Network was the first film to have a 4K work through. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was the first one with a 5K work through. Gone Girl, first one with a 6K. He's always been pushing and pushing and pushing that. And I think that sort of came to a head with Mindhunter. That he didn't like create it, but he was the showrunner behind it. After a certain point, he directed, I think, 5 out of the 19 total episodes, and it was really, really. I personally loved it. That it's just Fincher at his best. Fincher at his Finchiest, which
full Finch.
Yeah, full Finch. There we go. And it was.
Yeah.
That the characters, the building and everything, that it just worked. And it's sort of a shame that Mindhunter has now just sort of gone a bit quieter. And hopefully there will be a third season, probably in a few years. But I really love that. But no, Fincher said that, oh yeah, I love it. But also going back to Mank, he made Mank. So he's not one of those people that's just one or the other. It's like, mix it up a bit. You want to like vary your diet, filling your palate.
Yeah, if you just eat steak, you're gonna get sick of steak, aren't you?
Like, and going back to the cinema thing. I know I mentioned this in another episode, but cinema, like the whole cinema experience, people talk about that as if big directors imagine cinema, everyone's going to sit down and actually be quiet and behave themselves. Just shut up, but they don't. You always get like a group of teenagers like, and just shut up, shut it. Like, I get annoyed at that.
Another story time. When I was watching Avengers Endgame in the cinema, the guy sat next to me left about 2 hours in, and then came back. With a bag of McDonald's. just to sit and eat during the climax of the movie. So like literally, whilst Captain America, a spoiler alert for a film that feels like it's 10 years old, but probably only like 2. Captain America lifts the hammer, and this guy next to me is like, "That's dead nice." It's like literally talking to himself about how nice his McDonald's is that he's eating. And it's like, I was like, I wish I was enjoying this movie as much as you're enjoying that McDonald's. I wouldn't have had that issue at home because I would have asked him to be quiet.
And you can pause it. You can't just pause the cinema.
I mean, I do love.
I had that.
like I do love going to the cinema. Like it is great, and it's like it is really really fun. But just going, that's the only way to truly watch a movie is like it's just, you know, it's just to me it just feels like false information. Like, you know, it's like I think while some of my best while some of my best viewing experiences have been at the cinema, all of my worst ones have also been at the cinema. like Burger Guy and Endgame, and when we went to watch when I went to watch Logan, the sound just turned off for the last 20 minutes of the movie. Like there was just literally no sound. And it's like, oh great.
Yeah.
and like people at cinema were like, oh well, I guess it just turned off, didn't it? And it's like, so I don't know what the last 20 minutes of Logan sounds like. If anyone could tell me, that would be great.
Yeah. I had an issue actually. We were watching the beginning of a film, and there was this couple came in, and it turns out this guy was sat in the couple's seat, and like instead of him just moving to where he was sat, he like made a big fuss out of it, and like management and security had to come in and have him removed. I was like, man, over a seat.
Karen right there.
I was like, yeah, that real Karen. It's just like, oh, there's like,
was
it
it
like, oh,
Scorsese?
it was like, oh, well, there's loads of empty seats. Was it Martin Scorsese?
Yeah.
It was some, I don't know. It was like, I mean, he was saying, oh, well, there's loads of empty seats, but they were like, but if we sit in somebody else's seat, somebody else might come in and have the same issue as we have. So if you could just move, it would make things a lot easier. But no, he had to make a massive fuss of it like a little child, and like he got removed by security and the manager. And the film was like paused as well.
At least they paused it.
Like paused it, yeah.
So they can pause the film if I need to go for a wee. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Like, and going back to that Scorsese, like, you know, you're talking about at the beginning that Scorsese has like he has like an amazing filmography, and you know, his work is like cannot be denied as being influential and being like important to cinema. But like great directors do also just make absolute tripe. like the film the film that has made me the most angry ever is Ready Player One. And if that film was directed by anybody but Steven Spielberg, I'd be like, nah, who cares? But because that film was a Steven Spielberg movie, it like irritates me to my core.
Yeah.
So, sorry if anyone likes Ready Player One. I have nothing against people liking that movie. Just for me, that film was like watching watching a loved one like fail to like do like fail to get out the bath. Essentially, it was just like it was heartbreaking to see, and it made me. It was just like, have you guys seen Ready Player One?
Nah.
Yeah. Did you? What did you think?
I quite liked it.
That's fair enough.
I quite liked it.
I mean,
yeah.
It for me, it was the thing that got me the most. It was the dialogue, and everything felt like it was. Every take felt like the first take. Like every reading and every performance was like.
Right.
And no one went, should we do another take of that? just in case. Just in, you know, you call it safety when you're on set, don't you? You go, let's just do one more to be safe, just in case. And it just you know, Steven Spielberg has again made some of the most beautiful films ever of all time. And you can work on massive scale films, and you can work on tiny scale films like Terminal. Might be my favorite Steven Spielberg movie, and it all takes place in one location, essentially got one character in it, and it's just it's this really small character piece movie, and it's wonderful, and he's like a master of that craft. And then there's just something about Ready Player One where I was like, what happened? Did you get hit on the head by a coconut before? like the weird thing about
that takes me to that.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go on, Josh.
Go
Go
on.
on.
Terminal.
Go on. No, because I've got something else.
So Terminal costs more money to make than Saving Private Ryan as well, which is crazy to think. It's because they I think it's because they had to build they had to build the airport, I believe. Because you can't film in an airport. So they built one essentially.
Yeah. That takes me to another interesting question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Have directors gotten worse as they've gotten older?
Ooh. I mean, I'd argue Spielberg has, yeah. I don't think if Stanley Kubrick saw Ready Player One, you'd be like, yeah, that's the guy that should take over this film that I'm too ill to make now. Like, I don't think that would be the... I think he'd probably do something different.
What's this for Coppola? You had The Godfather Part 2, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now, all the way through the 70s. That was just... But what did he make after that? Godfather Part 3, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
So, and also, all the cuts of Apocalypse Now he's done since the original, I think, are all worse than actual Apocalypse Now. Like, I'll be honest. Tell me I'm wrong, please.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I've
not seen the newest.
Oh, it came out like 2019, like 40th anniversary. But Redux, that came out 2001, did it? And personally, I think Redux is my favorite because it just has a lot more in. And it does break up the pace a bit, but I just prefer more. I like that it has more stuff in, and it just adds a lot more to it. And it had a bit more to Willard's character personally, and
we'll swing back around to this later, Jeff.
Okay.
About whether more is better.
All right.
So have you got an example, Hayden, of like somebody who you think does that, who gets worse with time?
Probably Ridley Scott, to be honest. If you look at what he made in his earlier career compared to what he's made now, like the new Alien film was like, I thought it was trash personally.
Yeah.
Alien Covenant, was it called?
They've all got weird names.
And Prometheus was... Yeah, like it was supposed to be Prometheus 2 originally, wasn't it? Right. And they got changed to name for marketing reasons.
Right, well, because Prometheus wasn't very good and nobody liked it.
That's another one as well. Prometheus was kind of disappointing to me as well. Like, it's like they were advertising it as the true Alien prequel, and it just wasn't any of that. Like, I would have preferred, like, I think the trailer was the problem, wasn't it? Personally, like, if you've seen the trailer, you've practically seen a lot of the film, pretty much.
Yeah, that is like a weird thing where, like, obviously the trailer, you want to put all the best bits of your movie in it because you want people to come see, but then you've essentially seen a highlight reel of the movie. Unless you're Marvel and you put stuff in the trailer that's not actually in the movie. Like, I was talking about this with my partner the other day. Hulk is in all the Infinity War trailers and he's not in the movie. Like, they literally added him into the trailers. It's like, and also I think Iron Man's on Earth in the trailers as well. It's like they just did all of this stuff to be like, well, this is an advert for a film with really cool things in it. None of these cool things will be in the movie. And like, speaking of directors that got worse with time, George Lucas, American Graffiti. Quite good. A New Hope, quite good. I've not seen all of THX1, is it? Which is his like
that was like his first film.
Yeah, like, those first 3 films, very good. Like, because he only made A New Hope, and then 2 other people made the other 2, and then every film after that he's made has been absolutely awful. I do. I have a soft spot for the prequels because they were the films when I was growing up. I was the perfect age to love Phantom Menace and Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. But like, as someone who's hopefully got better taste with time, those films are just dire. But actually, maybe not dire.
Yeah.
Like I used to think the Clone Wars was the worst Star Wars movie until they made Rise of the Skywalker, and then they proved me wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, what's
I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I was about to say. The new films that came out have made me appreciate the prequels more. Personally,
I really do like The Last Jedi.
I mean,
controversial.
Oh, that's actually the one that triggered. That's the one that kind of triggered me into like the Star Wars hate. Pretty much.
I get it. It is like an anti-Star Wars movie.
Could be like Harry Hill and be like,
yeah.
Fight!
Yeah, fight. Yeah. It's fair. Like that film does for me have one of the greatest jokes of any film of all time, which is you see Rey hand Luke Skywalker a lightsaber, and then 2 years later you have to wait and he throws it over his shoulder, and I think that's a very funny payoff. if comedy is just tragedy plus time, that is very good time. But I get, like, it is, that film has the weakest B plot of all the Star Wars movies. I'll admit that. Like Finn's story arc is abysmal, but they had to give him something to do, and I think the thing they chose for him to do was just bad. I really appreciate the message of that movie about letting go of the past, and like Star Wars can be about anything. Like, why should it just always be about the two things it's always about? And the Mandalorian, goes on to prove that point, that Star Wars can be about anything. Like the Mandalorian to me is more based on the things that Star Wars is based on than it is based on Star Wars. It's like a Western and like a samurai movie, which is what Star Wars is.
Yeah.
But I do get why people don't like The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But
I'm convinced that. Sorry, I was going to say I'm convinced that Rian Johnson has never watched a Star Wars film. I'm so convinced that he's never watched a film. I swear he just read the plot and the synopsis and never watched them.
You see, to me, I'd argue it feels like Johnson knows it really, really well. Even that weird, that forced projection thing that Luke does is like a thing from one of the what are now defunct Star Wars novels, and I know that they pulled that same trick in the Rise of the Skywalker, where that force healing thing is from a defunct now Star Wars novel. But I think the reveal of Luke being a ghost is a better reveal than Rey just magically healing a big old sandworm. But talking about good writing, Luke did say, "I'm not going to go up and fight Kylo Ren with a lightsaber." He did say he wasn't going to do it. The film made you a promise and then delivered that promise. I'm going to get a lot of hate after this podcast. I like the Star Wars some everybody hates, and I think Steven Spielberg's become a hack. I'm going to really get it, aren't I?
Yeah.
But to
to be fair, I think Rise of the Skywalker is a worse film than The Last Jedi, personally, because that one just tries to do a 180 on everything.
Yes.
Pretty much.
I think The Rise of the Skywalker is worse than Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is I used to think was the worst Star Wars movie, and then Rise of the Skywalker was just no, we'll show you the worst Star Wars movie. Yeah. You know what? Well, that links what you're talking about. Directors who have gotten worse with time. J.J. Abrams. Just
Oh.
like, Force Awakens is absolutely fine. Like, it is A New Hope, but I think that's kind of forgivable because do the thing that worked. But Rise of Skywalker is just atrocious, truly atrocious. Like, let's not forget that he directed that movie. Like, but he kind of got Peter Jackson with The Hobbited, didn't he? Because like Peter Jackson didn't want to direct the Hobbit movies, and then kind of just all the other directors kind of dropped out and quit, and it's like, I guess you'll do it then, Peter. Like JJ wasn't meant to direct Rise of Skywalker, was he?
Yeah, it's going to be Rian Johnson, but
was it good? And then Johnson made a film that people didn't like.
Well, that's the thing with Abrams. So I've read somewhere that he's good at starting things, but finishing them, he just can't. Like with Lost, he started Lost, but after the first season, he was like, "Yep, see ya, bye." Star Trek 2009. Controversial opinion. I don't like the Kelvin timeline Star Trek films personally. They didn't make sense. I know. But I also love Discovery and Picard and Lower Decks. So yeah, that's controversial in and of itself. But no, he starts that. It's basically replace Luke Skywalker with Kirk being like, "Oh yeah, chosen one, you just happen to be there." Pike just plucks him out. And like, what? You're a cadet. And then all of a sudden, Pike, who knew his father, but doesn't know who he is. First you see him, he's in a bar fighting drunk. Like, okay, and then he's like, yeah, he's going to be captain of the flagship of Starfleet and Enterprise, which a Constitution class Enterprise shouldn't be that big. It's longer than the Sovereign class. It should have been something like 285 meters. Like, no, in the movies, it was like, right, it's just going to make it bigger. And it's like 800 meters. It's like, bro, no, that's not how it's supposed to. I don't know.
Is sci-fi bad, guys? Is this what we're discovering here right
now?
Our sci-fi movie's just bad. Star Wars isn't very good. Star Trek's got its issues. Is sci-fi just the alien
Star
movies?
Star Trek Picard is brilliant. So just say that.
Yeah.
Discovery's got good at season 3.
But it's Abrams clearly good at doing the pilot. Good at doing the pilot episode.
Star Trek Into Darkness.
Is that bad?
It was basically a rip-off of The Wrath of Khan, because you had Benedict Cumberbatch as John Harrison, and people were theorizing, is he actually Khan? Is it going to be based on The Wrath of Khan? And they were like, no, it's not. And I was in the cinema, and I was like, oh yeah, there's Section 31, so reference to Deep Space Nine, and there were like this little reference to Enterprise with a little model on Admiral Marcus's desk, and I was geeking out at all that. And then you got Benedict Cumberbatch, the whitest man they could find,
with the best name.
That my name is Khan, and after that I was like, no, because that one, my name is Khan, and then spoiler alert, Kirk dies after going into the warp core to realign dilithium crystals. That's not how the warp core works, which, okay, but just go into it, just kick it, give it a good kick and then realign it. Oh, but you got a fatal dose of radiation. And then he's at the glass and he's like, oh, Spock. Yeah, Spock's there. And it's like, he dies. And then Spock's like, God, which mirroring the Wrath of Khan scene, like with Spock dying, which that was emotional. Wrath of Khan, that was emotional.
I was going to ask whether they did a callback to the whole shouting car into the air thing.
Spock did it. Khan, and then afterwards he got Khan's blood has super blood, and just re-inject blood into people, and they come alive again. Like McCoy did it with a Tribble, and then did it with Kirk. It's like, great, you just cured death. What? that doesn't work.
I'd be careful with those Tribbles, mate. They could be a right trouble, I've heard. Thank you. I'll be leaving now. Thank you.
Okay.
Bay doors close, eject me into space. Directors who have always been bad and repeatedly keep getting worse. Zack Snyder.
Oh, controversial opinion.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna get
Controversial.
a death threat at the end of all of this.
It's almost like he's got a second chance with the Snyder Cut. His film didn't work out well, and then it's like, oh, try again, make it longer.
His entire career has been second chances. I don't know who he knows. He must have Khan blood in him. He keeps getting brought back from death. I mean,
the whole. No, sorry, I was going to say
please,
the whole Justice League situation was actually. What's that? Sorry. The whole Justice League situation was the whole Justice League situation was over a personal matter. I'm not going to say what it was in this podcast, but yeah, I'm not going to bash Zack Snyder for the whole Justice League thing because that was not his fault. I mean, it's personal reasons, but yeah.
It's but irregardless of that, and I'll circle back around to that. I like Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is good, but it was also written by James Gunn, and then by two other people after James Gunn finished writing it. And then just everything afterwards is just like Man of Steel, which was written by Christopher Nolan, we mustn't forget, is a bad movie.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch is one of the worst movies, like one of the worst ones ever made. Batman vs Superman is just an insult to the viewer watching it. The recurring no matter how much you love those characters or how much you love that director or whatever, having the thing that stops a character from saying another character's name having a character killing another character is just saying somebody's name it's just bad. The fact that the word Martha is and then Batman's I've got a mum and her name's Martha. It's just bad. It's that film is for the first half nobody's talking and everyone's just staring moodily at each other, and then you're like, God, I wish there was some dialogue in this movie so I knew what people were thinking and feeling. And then the film hears that complaint and goes, okay, here's nothing but dialogue and people talking at you. It's and it's just it's say what you will about the MCU, I feel at least the world that the characters live in, exists in a sense. They always have silly, small, little character moments, be it with the heroes or with just people, just civilians or whatever. Pardon me. And they give the world stakes. Whereas in Batman vs Superman, to me, the only places that exist are the Daily Bugle, so people can point at the TV and go, look what's happening on the news. And then that toilet where they fight. But it doesn't feel like any people live in those worlds. Whereas I say in the Marvel movies, which I don't think are perfect, it at least feels like there is people that are just around. When you have a world-ending threat, I'll be like, well, it doesn't matter if the world ends here because the only people that live here are Batman, Lois Lane, and Superman. So that's 3 people. That's all right. I wouldn't worry about it. we can lose them. whereas I'm not saying that every other shot in superhero film should be shots of people, but I think one thing that Sam Raimi does really well in Spider-Man 1 and 2 is there's people, and the people have personality. Literally, the climax of Spider-Man 1 is people throwing garbage from the Brooklyn Bridge at Green Goblin, saying you can't stop us, Green Goblin, we'll take you down. And again in Spider-Man 2, the bit on the train which has got like weird Messiah imagery, but like, you know, they carry him like above their head. And there's like people and they do things, and you can go, oh yeah, if that train was to crash, people would die. Whereas in Batman vs Superman, it's like if Superman and Batman don't stop, what's the guy called in that? Is it Doomsday? Is that Doomsday? The only thing that's going to happen is that toilet they were fighting in, like that toilet they were fighting in might get destroyed. there's just like, there's no stakes other than the ones that are important to the main characters. And like, you know, and whilst Raimi's movies are really campy, I think that's okay. Like, you know, he made superhero movies before they made billions of dollars, so we can cut him a little bit of slack because he was trying it out.
Oh no, think of the economy.
Yeah, like I don't get what Lex Luthor's motivation is in any of the movies that he's in. Like, I can't think of a single, like, if someone sat me down and like, what does Lex Luthor want in Batman vs Superman? I'd be like, I don't know. I do not know what he wants. Like, and you know, going back to Justice League, Hayden, I'm excited to see this Snyder cut, because I do have a feeling that making a film twice as long isn't the way to make it any better.
Callback.
The promised callback. I promised you I wouldn't fight Kylo Ren on the planet, and I'm not going to fight Kylo Ren on the planet. Double callback.
That's the thing, that Apocalypse Now, like whatever version you watch, is like a good film. The original cut was a very good film and people loved it. And the things that are added to it just add to it. They don't take away from what's already there. I mean, the most that you could probably say takes away is the pace. But if you can look past that, it does add stuff. But if the same doesn't happen with the Snyder Cut, because people think that Justice League, it was generally seen as... So
it was like 10 years too late.
Yeah, like you can't just... It's like having a turd and then putting like sprinkles on it. Like, yeah, it might look nice, but you bite into it, you're still going to be like, ugh.
He's like... I'd say Zack left that project for personal reasons, and that's come see, come saw. But like Justice, like the reason that Avengers Assemble kind of works, which I'm watching back, Avengers Assemble doesn't really work, but like is that at least Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor had films before it, and like Justice League is just like, oh, by the way, here's Aquaman and Cyborg. There you go. They have personalities, we assume. Like, I'm not a big DC fan, so I don't know what their personalities should be. But I feel like Aquaman's probably more than like a guy that goes, oh yeah, and, like everything that he sees. Because that is kind of in the Justice League, that's kind of all he does, is he goes, oh yeah. And then like Cyborg is barely in that movie, and he seems like the most interesting character. Like his powers come from the thing that makes people evil. Like that's interesting. But it's like they film so obsessed with Batman, and like with Batman being broody and Wonder Woman being like, I'm not good enough to lead this team, but I will lead this team, even though nobody asked her. Like, but I don't know, but I would be curious who wrote the screenplay for that movie, because I think one of the things that like is kind of interesting to remember about, like, I always when I think about bad films, it's very easy to blame the actors and whatever, but a lot of it is the scripts. Like bad scripts become bad movies. There's very rarely a bad script.
Well, it's where it starts.
Yeah, like there's very rarely a bad script becomes a good movie. Like, so it would be interesting to know who wrote Justice League, and how true what we see on the screen is to like the thing. Like saying James Gunn wrote Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Get Dead is a good movie. Like, and I think James Gunn is a very he's a very fun director, at least. Like Sliver's great. Oh my god, what's it called? The Guardians of the Galaxy movies are maybe some of the more interesting films in the Marvel universe. He's bad scripts. Like as much, but the same thing with that is that Snyder writes a lot of the movies that he makes. So it's like this bad film that you've made, you did also write this.
What do you think to 300?
All 300
would make a good music video, certainly. But again, I've not read 300, so like it's got that issue that all Zack Snyder films have, where it's just like, there is like, that's a film about 300 soldiers, and I don't feel like I know anything about anybody apart from the main guy. Like there's we don't spend enough time in Sparta to be like, there's people here who, if they were to lose this fight, this would be dangerous. Like there's no stakes other than the personal stake to the main guy.
Yeah. Well, what's his name? What's the main guy's name?
Laertes?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Leonidas.
So. Leonidas. There you go.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those films where you turn your brain off and you're like,
yeah. And I think there is room for those films.
Yeah.
Definitely. You need those films. In the palette of cinema, you need, films that don't do anything other than the thing that they're doing, essentially.
Yeah. You
But
don't
like
need them all
Fast
to
and
be.
Furious.
A film that you don't need to read a Wikipedia afterwards to be like, did I enjoy what I just saw? Let me check on Wikipedia.
But those films are also enjoyable.
Yeah. Like, but it's, as long as they're not being streamed and they're being shown in cinemas, then they're enjoyable. I'm genuinely really, really excited to see the Snyder Cut. I really am, because there's very rarely that a film comes out that is like critically slammed, and then like the studio's like, here's $10 million, make it better. Like, because Zack Snyder's fan base clearly does respect him and like think that he's got greatness in him. They see, they see something in Zack Snyder, and like, and I get it. Like, if you're a big DC fan, you want that stuff to work because Marvel has been running that town for a very long time now. Like, even the Sony X-Men films have been better received than like most of the DC movies. Like, and and even they started to lose so much like traction that they sold the rights back to Marvel. Like, it's people it's nice to see people have such faith in a filmmaker that they can do something brilliant. Like, I can't imagine, like, it's that thing, like the second chance. Like, so many filmmakers don't get the second chance. And what makes Snyder so special that he gets the 5th second chance? Like, because he made Man of Steel, which I don't think was very well received. Then he made Batman vs Superman, which wasn't very well received. And then he started to make Justice League, which, then that film wasn't very well received. And then we're like, oh, just make that film again. Like, just do it again, mate. Like, and make his suit black this time instead of blue. Like, try it, see what happens. Like, I know lots of filmmakers. Sorry, Hayden, you go.
No, I was going to say, I think DC's biggest mistake was they tried to catch up with Marvel too quick.
Yeah,
I think that was DC's biggest mistake, because like they decided, oh, we're going to make Batman vs Superman straight away instead of making a separate Batman film.
Yes.
Like, why do that? Like, you introduce the character, then you make the collab film. Like, That's how it would normally work.
Like we don't need a film where we watch Batman's parents get shot and like we see him become Batman. You just make a Batman movie. People know who Batman is. Like in the MCU, they introduced Spider-Man 20 minutes into the end of another movie that wasn't about him because people know who Spider-Man is. It's like we don't need to see Uncle Ben get shot, Spider-Man get bit. We get it. Like those characters are like most people's mums and dads know how Spider-Man got his powers. You don't need to see it. Like it's kind of just it's there.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm interested about that. Robert, is it Matt Reeves in the Robert Pattinson Batman? Like,
yeah,
Robert
Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. Sorry,
yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Who's the villain in that? Is it the Riddler?
It's the Riddler and the Penguin, I think.
The Penguin. Oh, okay.
I think it's Colin Farrell playing the Penguin as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it should be Danny DeVito when he's going to be the Penguin. But like, it's if we have to watch Batman's parents get shot one more time, I'm gonna like cry. Like we don't need to see it anymore. Like,
no, well, he's an older man though.
Yeah. He appears to already be Batman in the movie, doesn't he? So it's like sorry.
Do you want to go first?
I was going to say, like, and even like even Spider-Verse, it's like let's do Spider-Man's origin story 10 times in this film, but it takes 15 seconds to get across. Like every time they do it, like here's Spider-Man's origin story, you already know it. Here we go, Spider-Man, go for it.
Another thing I love about the concept of it is that we're not having a superhero who is basically just a paid bodybuilder. They're just like building up like it's like. Daniel Craig's James Bond just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It just seems a bit off. Like you want to be a spy, you want to be like subtle and But with Robert Pattinson's Batman, like I would imagine he trained a bit, but he's not going to be like swole, big, like bulk.
He's not pushing that big tire that he does in Batman vs Superman.
Nah, but he doesn't need to because being a billionaire, you're not going to have to be like big muscle man. And if you want to blend into the crowd, you're not going to be, Batman is this big, swole, hench man. Hey, look, guess who else is hench? This man right here. You want to blend it. You want people to not know who you are. It's the same with James Bond.
Yeah.
You want someone, like, if you're going to go by the books, someone like Timothy Dalton, who is just a guy. He's the most subtle Bond actor that you can get. And he's perfect for it. Daniel Craig, I don't care if he's blue-eyed or blonde. Yeah, he's just too big. I wouldn't believe that. I don't believe he's a spy. Like, maybe like some, like special forces, like with a gun, just shooting up everything. Yeah, I believe that. But a spy, nah.
Well, those films kind of went the way of Jason Bourne, didn't they? Where it was like, but I get it because like I forget. One of my friends was talking about this. They were like, Austin Powers essentially killed James Bond. whereas like James Bond had gotten to the point where it was so easy to parody that like the people making the Bond films were like, well, what's the current most popular super spy movie out at the moment? Oh, it's Jason Bourne. We'll do one of those then. And like, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with like being inspired by the most popular films at the moment. But it's like, and then James Bond just became Jason Bourne essentially, like fighting people in toilets and killing people with pencils.
Yeah. Also, like with the whole bodybuilding thing, like I do get where Rob Pattinson's coming from, definitely, because there's so many, like you see some of these actors and like jacked and stuff, but like I've seen videos out there about this kind of stuff. A lot of them are taking steroids. A lot of the actors are taking steroids, which I don't blame them, to be honest, because if you told me, oh, I'm going to give you £1 million to be in this film, but you need to be jacked in a month, I'm like, well, yeah, I can understand why they would do it, but like it's also creating unrealistic expectations for like, males out there, isn't it? Of what kind of physique you can get. The Rock's a good example. I mean, I love The Rock personally. I think he's great, but he shouldn't be going around claiming to be a natural bodybuilder because he's not. He's on all sorts of stuff. and whatnot.
It's like
I see that point.
It's like Chris Pratt is like for the Guardians movies.
No, sorry, go on.
Like Chris Pratt in the Guardian movies, like really like changed his body entirely, didn't he?
Mm.
Like, but I feel like in the later ones, he's a bit pudgier again. Like, I think maybe because is it Parks and Rec, the show he's in where he's quite chubby, and then it was like going between shooting that and shooting Guardians.
Yeah.
So his body shape had to keep changing. So and that's not, and so I think he kind of hit a middle ground where it's like kind of chunky but a bit muscly still.
Yeah.
And they even make a joke about it in Infinity War. They talk about how he's gotten fat.
You know who Richard Dean Anderson is?
Who's that?
Stargate SG-1. He played Colonel O'Neill. Are you guys aware of that?
What I'm learning is I know nothing about Star Trek.
Well, he also played MacGyver before Stargate.
MacGyver?
Yeah. But he basically replaced Kurt Russell because Kurt Russell was O'Neill in the film, but then when it comes to the series, it's like, all right, we need someone else. And it was Richard Dean Anderson. He played it perfectly. He was much better than Kurt Russell and everything like that. It's just perfect for the role, like comedic timing and everything. But he took steroids,
right?
And it took its toll after all the years. Stargate SG-1 started in 1997, but they didn't expect it to be such a success. It lasted for 10 seasons. But he had to step away from being the main role because it started to take its toll on him. And there were like spin-off series like Stargate Atlantis and Stargate Universe, which also had O'Neill in as like guest starring, like referencing callback and that. But he was noticeably larger then. He wasn't like fat, but he's definitely right around the face. You could tell he had a bit more on him. But apparently that's due to the steroids.
Does it make you go chunky afterwards?
Yeah.
Which it started to affect his heart, I believe. I mean, could be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. Just a disclaimer, we're not medical experts. We're just discussing this because in the comments and stuff like that, people like will just roast you saying you don't know nothing and that lot. I'm like, well, this is what we know, okay?
Yeah, like
we don't know everything. We don't claim we're not experts.
Yeah, I mean, like
sorry, go on.
I'll happily eat a tube of Pringles. I wouldn't have anybody trust my opinion on what you should put in your body, essentially. And drinking Ryan from the mug. Like, what do I know? What do I know?
Well, I've never taken steroids personally.
I don't mind needles.
Yeah. Have you seen Chris Hemsworth transformation for the Hulk Hogan film coming out?
They're making a Hulk Hogan movie.
Like, a biography.
That's amazing.
About Hulk Hogan.
With Hemsworth.
With Hemsworth.
This has made my day, Hayden. This really has. Like,
no, literally, there's articles out there about it because he's got a stunt double, right? And the stunt double's struggling to like keep up with like his transformation because he obviously has to get as big as he does to look the part. But yeah, I'm like, he's definitely taking steroids. Like Chris Hemsworth, you should see like the size of him in his photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's, you got to ask, what's driving the desire to have people look like that in movies, like, because there's going to be a point where people just can't get any bigger. Like, it's, and it's, if it's, if you do believe that steroids aren't good for you, which I don't know whether they are or not, like I said, we're not medical experts, can't be good for the people taking them. It also just can't be good for like you see the amount of calories those people have to consume as well. I know that they're burning it all, but like, when you've got to be on like, 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day, it's like, that's like triple the amount someone's meant to eat.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I imagine it takes a toll on your body.
yeah, and
at some point.
maybe your mind as well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like could Chris? Well, they're saying that in, like I was saying, could Chris Hemsworth play a fat slob in a movie and still be very charismatic? He does in Endgame. But again, like that's dangerous because his fall from grace is like linked to the fact that his physique changes. And is that dangerous to be like, people that look like this are failures who have hit rock bottom? Because it's made a point. It's made a point that he's fat and that he's like, you know, he's got long hair and a scruffy beard, and that's meant to symbolize like he's lost and he's like a loser now. Like it's because he's not tall, handsome Chris Hemsworth like he was. He's now tall, fat Chris Hemsworth. Like, you know, like that's potentially dangerous imagery to link those body types with losing, with being a loser. Like, and again, I don't blame Chris Hemsworth for that, because he didn't write the movie. Whoever wrote the movie wrote that decision. It's all about writers, guys. Writers have the most amount of power.
Yeah, they get paid, don't they?
Yeah, until you get on set and then they change your movie.
It's also the filmmakers as well, because a lot of the time, you know, like a lot of, like, I think with the Daniel Craig, going back to the Daniel Craig thing, a lot of the times his body doesn't actually look like that. It's just what he looks like at that moment, basically, as they shot it, with the lighting and everything else as well. So you could also argue that it's also the filmmaker's responsibility as well.
It's like, it's the audience responding to natural looking bodies and being like, that's what we want to see more of. And it's filmmakers' responsibilities to have more people of different body shapes and types. Because the reason that all these people are hunky and muscly is because, you know, if you look at the market trend, films with hunky muscly people in do very well. So you're going to go, let's put some hunky muscly people in stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think we should get past the point where someone being large is a punchline. Like, and again, I don't think what Endgame did was bad. I just think it's worth having that lens to be like, is it okay that him being fat is used as a punchline, essentially, and like to show his fall from grace? Because like, trying to think of like anybody else in the MCU whose fall from grace is like signified in that way. It's just interesting to think about. And it'd be interesting to see what he looks like in the next movie, whether he looks like that again, or whether he looks what we'll call Chris Hemsworth prime. Like, whether he looks like Hulk Hogan or not. I cannot believe they're making a Hulk Hogan movie.
Like,
I'm not over that. Like, what a like.
Have you seen The Wrestler? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
With Mickey Rourke. Have you seen that Wrestler?
No.
Yeah, I love that film.
See, you know what? It actually goes the other way, because think about how Christian Bale changes his body for roles as well. Because he doesn't necessarily get bigger, does he? He'll get smaller. And that's also dangerous, surely. I can only, again, not a health expert, but I can't imagine losing all that weight's good for you.
Didn't he play Dick Cheney?
He did, and he got really fat for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Just do the Marlon Brando.
You got like
put cotton balls in your mouth and have done with it.
Oh, that's Marlon Brando in.
He got consulted by a doctor as well.
Yeah.
Well, Marlon Brando, or
no, I was going to say he had to get Scott. No, Christian Bale. He had to get like consulted by a doctor for it, for getting fat and stuff. Like, so he wasn't like damaging his body
Right.
so much. But
Marlon.
obviously he's damaged it over time because of how much he's transformed.
It's just.
I'm on about Christine Bell, not Marlon.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's say Marlon Brando literally just put cotton balls in his mouth. It's like, now I'm a fat guy. No, actually, in The Godfather, didn't he wear like a special thing in his mouth or something to change the shape of it? Oh, if only there was some kind of like internet movie database we could check this information on.
Let's have a look.
Sorry, I realised that this conversation got like very serious at a certain turning point.
Very serious.
Well, speaking about Brando, he was a weird person. Like, he made some comments about the Jews.
Oh, good.
Yeah. He also, I think during the filming of The Godfather, that he demanded to have his lines not written on a piece of paper, but written on a fellow actress's arse, and for him to read. If I'm wrong here, I'll just say allegedly.
Allegedly, please.
Yeah. He also, for Apocalypse Now, said that, oh yeah, I'll work out a bit, I'll bulk up a bit, but no, he just showed up with not too much muscle mass, let's just say, and he basically just showed up and did what he wanted, and only being at the end, he got top billing of Apocalypse Now, and he also got top billing in The Godfather because he was a big name.
Yeah, it's. I've heard the thing about him having his lines written on people's clothes, so he could like read off like, because obviously when you're shooting your tour, like you know you see the other person's back, so you can just literally have anything on the front.
Yeah,
it's like here's, you know what? Let me get your podcast, All the Hate in the World. Is Orson Welles one of those filmmakers that got worse as he got older? Because Citizen Kane wasn't his last movie, and it wasn't his middle movie. It was one of his first. Like the thing I always think about Orson Welles is that like he essentially like died having used up most of his fame. Essentially, like he was not like, you know, for someone who's considered one of the most iconic filmmakers of all time, he did not die a very wealthy man. Like. Like, it wasn't his last film, the Transformers movie as well.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? For a film that is a toy advert, that film is not too bad, you know.
Be a serious actor.
Just
all
the
time,
first one.
Yeah, like that like animated one, the like not the Shia LaBeouf one. That first one is completely like. If I ever had a child, I'd be happy for them to watch that. Like it's, you wouldn't expect it to be like a message movie, but it is like a message movie. Like also any film that kills like the most iconic character from the series in the first 5 minutes is like Optimus Prime dies in the like instantly in that movie, and the entire film is about trying to find someone to replace Optimus Prime. But it's there's an interview with the guy that wrote it about like when it first came out, children were heartbroken because Optimus Prime died, and he was like, we didn't expect anybody to care. Like,
oh
man, I wouldn't call that film good bad. I wouldn't call it good either. I'd call it somewhere. It's 300 level. You could put it on and it would happen whilst it was on the television.
yeah. Is that your cheeky little segue?
Speaking of which, we've got well, this is what we originally were meant to be talking about before we got off track.
At the time,
about bad films that are bad, but they're also so bad that they're good.
Yeah.
What kind of films do we like that are bad?
It's a very special like part of a very special. You go back to the previous metaphor. A very small part of the cinema palette is a film that is so bad that it's good. It's I think the most unique thing about it is that it's not something you can, for me at least, it's not something you can make happen. I don't think you can make a good bad movie on purpose. I think all the truly good bad movies, the people making them wanted them to be good. Like, if you think about The Room, the attempt in that movie was not to make the most iconic good bad movie of all time. He was trying to make a good movie that he thought was good. Like, think about like the Sharknado franchise. They've kind of tried to rewrite their history on that a little bit, where they've they've said that, oh no, we were trying to make a good bad movie from the start. But like the first movie, I genuinely think they were trying to make a silly movie, but they were trying to make a good movie. Like, and then it turned out to be like this popular good bad hit, and then like, oh no, we were always trying to be good bad. It's like, and the proof of that is that every film after Sharknado 1 is just appalling to watch, and it's so boring because they're trying to pull off this good bad thing.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
I think the like actual term for it is para-cinema, when a film is like good bad. I think it's like, that's me trying to remember what I wrote in my dissertation like 10 years ago, like because I wrote about a little bit about like that kind of instance. And it's what do you guys have like good bad movies you always think of?
Trying to find it
man
now.
One of my favorites is The Wicker Man, not the Christopher Lee one, because that is a classic. The one with Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
Is
the perfect good bad movie. That's the perfect good bad movie.
It's hilarious. It's trying to be so serious and so scary, but it's hilarious. Like Nicolas Cage in a bear costume is just
beating up women,
class.
Yeah.
And like punches a woman in the face while he's in a bear costume.
Like, if you want to see a film where Nicolas Cage beats up some women, The Wicker Man is the movie for you. He is like
that. Yeah.
That's like.
I mean, that tracking shot where he like. Can you remember the tracking shot where he like it tracks him like running up and punching this woman in the face? They must have been laughing at that surely when they shot that, because I would have laughed my arse off if I was working on that set.
but again, like that Wicker Man movie is an attempt to make a serious Wicker Man remake. Like, no one thought what they were doing was silly. Like, they were like, no, this is like a serious thriller. Like, you really can't make that happen, if you ask me. Like, one of my favorite good bad movies is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Have you guys ever seen that? I mean, I would really, really seek that out. It is like, and then once you've watched it, read about them making it, because oh my god, like I think like 10 people almost died on set. Like Bob Hoskin almost died.
Wow.
Like, it was just, again, that was an attempt to make this like gritty kind of like weirdy Super Mario Bros. Movie. Like, and they weren't trying to make this good bad movie. Like, Bob Hoskins talked about in interviews, he talked about how the two directors were like really committed to what they were making was good. And like, you just can't, you really can't fake it. Like, there's like, I think the thing what happens with a good bad movie is like, when you're watching it, so at least for me, the facade of the movie like slips away, where you understand you're just watching people. Like, you understand that you're watching, you're not watching Nicolas Cage's character in a bear suit punch this other woman character. You're watching Nicolas Cage, the actor, in a bear suit, walk up to this other actor and hit her in the face. Like, it's like you instead of relating to the characters, you start to relate to the performance in a weird, like, you kind of transcend the fourth wall in a certain way, where you just become so aware that you're watching a construct. Like, and for me, it's always when I'm watching them, I'm always like, because they were on set and a group of people saw the take that they did and went, yeah, that's fine. Like, we don't have to do another take of this. Like, and then some poor guy in the editing booth had to sit down and go, and maybe he was like, yeah, this is absolutely fine. I shouldn't ask them. We shouldn't see whether we should reshoot any of this. Everything that we've got is great. Like, it's a really, really interesting, like, for me, it's always a really interesting and very fun experience. Like, and good, bad movies really do come alive when you're sat with other people watching them as well.
Yeah.
Like when you can sit and watch a movie with your friends and just rip the living everyday lives out of it. Like, it's like, have you got a good, bad movie favorite, Jeff?
Ooh, there's so many to choose from, but mine tend to be more from late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Good period.
It's about the time when, like, video VCRs, like, they were really, really popular and they were taking off. You just record on tape, because Super 8 or Super 16, that was relatively expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You get loads and loads just guff. Like from Germany, there are films called Violent Shit. Literally just called that.
Oh yeah, that was on the Video Nasties.
Was it?
That was on the Video Nasties list.
Just different ones where it's just people filming with, like, really, really poor like camera, just with really poor effects, but it was like, and someone, I even forget what it was supposed to be, like a slasher film, but it just didn't really have a backstory.
It's like basically dogma filmmaking at that point, isn't it? Because it's all, like, really cheap and it's just like using what you can essentially see around you.
Sort of, yeah.
I think, obviously, like, with plot and editing and all that kind of thing, which dogma doesn't really abide by, but like the actual like filmmaking technique of just having this camera that we've got here.
Yeah. I think the fourth one, they had a bit more budget to it.
Right.
It became more of a same, like, slasher movie villain, but in, like, post-apocalyptic world where the women became more like Amazons, and to reproduce they kidnapped men and sucked out their sperm, or I don't know. That was
I'm sold. I'm sold, to be honest, Jeff.
There was another film, but I think the filmmakers of Violent Shit also made it, but I can't remember what it was actually called. But I really adored that. It was just this really. It was awful, but there was soul behind it. People making it just. They probably knew they weren't going to make the Godfather with it, but
they believed what they were making was going to be good.
They wanted to make it, which is brilliant.
Like I really do think that is the special thing about a good bad movie, is that the people making it, like, need to believe it's going to be good. Like that to me is always the key element in, like, which, like, you get a lot of those, like, horror channel and sci-fi original movies which are trying to do good bad, and to me it always just kind of falls off flat. But, like, you can, like, a film like Troll 2, or have you guys seen Troll 2?
Bits.
I would recommend.
The meme.
I would, like,
those memes.
Yeah, it is. I would recommend, like, when people can meet up again, having a viewing of Troll 2 with a group of people is fantastic. Like, because whilst those memes are great, that doesn't compare you. That doesn't prepare you for the context to which they come from. It's like the I remember the Not the Bees meme from that Wicker Man movie. And whilst that is great, that doesn't prepare you for just how great the rest of that movie is as well. Like, all that film is leading up to Not the Bees. There's two cuts of that movie as well, the Wicker Man one. And there's one where Nicolas Cage gets his legs broken and one where he doesn't. And it's a really horrible scene.
I do remember actually. Yeah.
They put his legs across a log and they smash him with a hammer. It's like the only bit of horror in the film that works. And it's like in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah. Is it like the director's cut, is it, or something like that, or the unrated one, or
oh man,
like that.
The direct, I do wonder, because they always tend to be the DVD ones, don't they? Like, will be like the uncut version of a movie, and like that whole director's cut, like it all goes back to the Snyder cut. All roads lead to the Snyder cut. And to Apocalypse Now, all roads lead to. It's like an interesting thought that because those films very rarely will call themselves the director's cut. They'll call themselves like the uncut version or like the nasty cut or whatever. And like there is that kind of whole thing about people believing the director's cut to be the better cut of a movie. And I do wonder, part of me does wonder how true that is, because there's a reason you have an editor. and there is. It's like no one calls Edgar Wright's movies the director's cut of those movies, do they? Like, you're not watching Edgar Wright's version, director's cut of Hot Fuzz, and those films are like, he has such a unique visual style, and it is.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
But it's not him who does that; it's his editor who does that. He tells his editor what to do, and then the editor goes and does it all. And then the editor will obviously make some choices themselves, and it's the is the director's version of a movie the best version of a movie? And if they are, and if that is, what's the point of having editors if directors can other than just being an editor to be a set of hands to use a piece of software? Editors are kind of good because normally they're not involved in any of the shooting process, and they just get the film as it's here's all the footage, and they can make the choices that are better for the movie. Famously, George Lucas's wife in A New Hope. Everything just comes. We're just circling back around to the start here. Here, the editor of New Hope. She I can't remember her first name, and I feel very embarrassed. She saves that movie. She cut 40 minutes from it, and they rearranged all of it because George Lucas had his idea of what it was meant to be, and then she went through and she was like, "Nah, this would be much better." I believe in Lucas's original version, it starts on Tatooine with Luke instead of in the Star Destroyer with Darth Vader and Princess Leia. Which is just you want to talk about iconic openings to movies.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there's the. No, sorry, Jeff. I was going to say, with Blade Runner, there's how many cuts is there now? Five cuts of the film.
Yeah.
And only one of them is the actual director's cut.
And it's not the one called the director's cut, is it? It's the final cut.
No, it's not. No, the final cut, which I do think is the best version, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm okay. I think if the performance was better, more people would be okay with that voiceover. Like I don't
Yeah.
think that voiceover is the worst thing. It's just because it was very phoned in by the fact it literally sounds like they rung Harrison Ford on the phone and told him to do some lines. Like
Alfred Bender and let us live.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with having some of the things that you've seen be explained to you a little bit, because there is a lot. And again, it's okay to leave an audience to have a think about things. Like, David Lynch's entire career is built on never explaining anything in his movies ever, but he's also making a particular type of movie. Like, he's making those more like films that are about feelings more than about plot. Whereas Blade Runner has got a plot. And the reason they gave it a voiceover is because people were sat in the room and went, I don't think you understand the plot of this. I don't think the plot of this movie comes through. But I genuinely think you don't need all the voiceover, and the performance needs to be better, definitely. But like, I don't think like that's the death of cinema, is having a voiceover in a movie.
It doesn't really work in some films like Apocalypse Now. Yeah, going back to that.
Yeah.
It works. It works out. It's just juicy, but that's because it's been all the way through. You haven't had a voiceover all the way through Blade Runner, and all of a sudden you're being talked at by Harrison Ford, and you're like, bruh.
So that is a bad example of a voiceover, but like I do understand why it was put in. I get the choice to be like, have we explained anything that happens in this movie? And let's not pretend that the director didn't like sign off on it. Like, because if he really didn't want that voiceover in that movie, he probably would have fought for it not to be in there. Like, going back to Orson Welles, like literally he took all of the reels of the film with Citizen Kane on home with him, so they couldn't take it away from him because he was worried. It's like, it's directors do all sorts of crazy things to make sure they get the cut of their film that they want. And let's not pretend that the director of that movie didn't see that voiceover and was like, either went, I don't care, or B, it's not worth fighting to get removed. But yeah, I just think it needs to be a better performance, better written, and placed better. I'm probably recorded in a sound booth as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm trying to think of like director's cuts which are just considerably worse than the actual movies.
It's got to be some.
There's definitely like, for me, I'd argue Apocalypse
Probably.
Now. But I wouldn't even say that's considerably worse. I just think it's just, like you said, it's more information, which is nice. But for me, it's about like, it's Walter Murch edited Apocalypse Now, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think Murch did a very good pass on it. Actually, perfect example. All the special editions of Star Wars. George Lucas cannot stop himself from ruining his own movies.
It keeps going back to Star Wars.
Has
there been an episode of this podcast where we haven't mentioned Star Wars?
It's almost like it's one of the greatest franchises of all time, isn't
Last
it?
episode.
It's like, is it weird to think that film was nominated for an Oscar? Like,
it wasn't.
It was. Best Picture.
It was.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Do you know the film it was beaten by?
Go on.
Annie Hall.
What?
Annie Hall beat Star Wars at the Oscars. To be fair, Woody Allen is a very questionable gentleman, but Annie Hall is a very good movie.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a very odd director. Yeah, he's apparently one of the hardest directors to work with.
Really?
Apparently he's like one of the hardest directors to work with.
if you can grit and bear it, I would definitely recommend pirating that movie to watch.
Yeah, this isn't an endorsement of pirating on this.
It's just in case you have an issue with giving a questionable director money. I really would recommend.
Yeah.
I would recommend seeking it out. It is very, very I feel like you get a lot of movies from the 70s, especially the late 70s, that can be kind of boring and a bit because it's a romance movie, and but it is I think it really holds up, and it's very funny, and it's some really great performances in it by everybody, and it's just a shame that Woody Allen is just allegedly a very questionable gentleman.
There's a documentary coming out about him.
Yeah,
there's a documentary coming out about it actually, but
is Chris Hemsworth in it? Does he play Woody Allen?
No, it's a documentary.
Oh, well, it could be a docudrama. You know? I just want Chris Hemsworth to have to completely alter his body to play anybody from history now. You've ruined me with that Hulk Hogan thing. You really have. It's all I can think about. Again, Hulk Hogan is I can't believe he got a movie before The Rock did. I really can't. Of all the wrestlers to get a biopic, why Hogan?
Why not, eh?
I guess he was one of the most famous, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I guess he was one of the first wrestlers to break through celebrity status and stuff like that. I guess.
Is this the beginning of the
mega famous?
Is this the beginning of the WWE CU, like the Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment Cinematic Universe?
Yeah. Did you see Hulk Hogan? Was he in Rocky 3 or something like that?
It wouldn't shock.
Yeah, Rocky 3. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Rocky 3. Yeah.
Yeah, in the first act when it was oh yeah, Rocky's fighting, and yeah, he was there, and then Mr. T watched it and it was I'm gonna get you.
He did I think Hogan did a string of movies himself as well, where he was the main actor in them.
Mm-hmm. One of them shot in 16mm.
It's possible, yeah.
Really, and he's just he's an interest. I assume he's got a very weird personal life. I don't know why. It just feels like he's strange. Because it shocks me how normal The Rock is as well. Because The Rock feels like he should be because wrestling's it's like a performance, isn't it? It's it's. I don't want to break anyone's heart. Wrestling's not real, guys. I don't want to. But it's like acting and but these people have to have their bodies at peak performance. But then obviously the throwing and stuff is real. But all the drama and all the I genuinely don't believe the Undertaker is a corpse who's been brought back to life to wrestle, because that's his story. That's the Undertaker's story. And it's
man, if there's one person who needs a biography, it's the Undertaker.
Yeah,
he needs a biography.
If there's someone whose story you want to know, you want it to be one of the really weird character wrestlers. Because again, I bet the Undertaker's got some stories to tell from the days of old.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I'm just thinking more about director's cuts and Hulk Hogan, and whether there's going to be director's cuts of those Hulk Hogan movies. Has The Rock got to the point where he started to direct movies yet? Because he's at the point where he is such a powerhouse in Hollywood that he probably could get away with directing something.
I don't know. Shall we have a look?
Because
He does have a lot of control over some of his films, doesn't he?
yeah,
He
like
does have a lot of control over some of his films because I think he produces, doesn't he? I think he
mm,
produces some of them.
I'm going to start with an allegedly. I don't know how true this is. Apparently, on the Fast and Furious movies, like that's Vin Diesel, The Rock, and Jason Statham, isn't it? They're like the main guys in it. Apparently there was
Yeah.
like a point system on set about them fighting, whereas like if The Rock got hit in a scene, he'd like go and talk to the director so he could make sure that he hit the guy that hit him back and stuff like that. Apparently there's this like weird like thing about no one wanting to look weaker than anybody else on set.
Yeah. Apparently, The Rock has a lot of beef with the Fast and Furious stars as well over a few things, especially Vin Diesel. It's well known.
I think I have a soft spot for Vin Diesel. You know?
Yeah.
It feels like he's somewhat aware that the movies that he's in are very silly. Like he's like it feels like he's almost like a second away from looking into the camera and winking. But he's like
the Riddick.
Yeah, like the Riddick films, like he's
the Riddick films, yeah.
They're like very using the words like they're very like campy again, like, and they're silly but they're fun, and it feels like no one's taking it too seriously at all. But again, but when you think about the Fast and Furious movies, it does feel like The Rock and Jason Statham are taking it very seriously. Like, you know, The Rock feels like he could pick a guy up and throw him through a table. Like, whereas I feel like Vin Diesel is not giving that kind of performance in those movies. He's like, I think he knows that it's a little bit silly. Whereas The Rock and Jason Statham are like buying their own, buying the news that they're selling essentially. Like Jason Statham's like, yeah, I could do everything the transport does. I'm that cool and that strong. like I couldn't imagine The Rock.
Did you know that? No, so I was going to say, did you know Vin Diesel was in Saving Private Ryan?
Yes, he's the guy that gets shot by the sniper.
Yeah.
He's like a
that was like one of his first films, wasn't it?
He is like a very good actor. Like he's clearly got like, you know, he's got the chops, as they say. Like, you know, but that was back when, pardon me, that was back when Steven Spielberg could direct a movie. So it's gone full circle. It's gone back to slamming Steven Spielberg for losing his touch. Here's a question: did anyone watch that BFG movie like from 4 years ago?
No,
I didn't think so.
Speaking about good bad movies, have you heard of Ghosts Can't Do It?
Ghosts Can't Do It. That sounds like a sex comedy from the 80s.
Well, 1988, starring Bo Derek. Her husband, who was probably quite a few decades older than her, passed away from a heart attack. And then he then appears to her as a ghost, as though, hey, and he tasks her to find another man so that he can inhabit his body and live their lives together again.
That is amazing.
And if you look at the scenes, like you see Bo Derek just on set and she's like acting, and then she just turns away in a random place and then starts talking. Now, obviously, like it wasn't with the actual actor who was there. She just like, presumably, I like to think she just looked in some random direction, started talking, and then filmed on another day, probably like months afterwards. They had this actor come back. It wasn't even it wasn't even that. It was just like a black background, just looking, and they're just like, just no interaction between. You could tell they weren't in the same room or had anything to go by, and it was just absolutely ridiculous.
I'm gonna watch that.
Please do. And it got nominated for several Razzies, including Worst Supporting Actor for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was in this film, playing himself. He played himself and got nominated for a Razzie.
That's amazing.
It's just...
Oh, man.
I can't, like...
I mean... That's not the only worst thing that Donald Trump's been nominated for. I'll tell you that much.
Oh,
bless his soul, wherever he is.
oh no!
He's the
I
only.
mean, people have been asking for him to be cut from Home Alone 2. People asked him to be cut from Home Alone 2.
He's the only actor from Home Alone 2 that's ever been impeached, and that's quite sad to think about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to it's. I think what really helped the good bad movie was like digital. When filmmaking became more available to anybody, like especially now, filmmaking has never been more accessible. All you need to do to make a movie is essentially a mobile phone. And obviously there are people who don't have phones and that kind of stuff, but like lots of people do have a mobile phone. I'm certain everyone here could literally reach and pick up their mobile phone. And like I'm you're getting to a point now where if you are one of those people that's really obsessed with like video quality, most mobile phones are shooting like 4K at this point, and like you're shooting on like resolutions that the Star Wars movies were shot higher on, like all those CGI like things they were shot on like digital cameras that weren't that high rate and stuff like that. It's it's like, and it's, I feel like in the good bad like movie world, it's horror that churns out the most, because if you can imagine going to like a HMV or like a CEX or wherever you buy your movies from, like it's horror movies always dominate. Like there's always more horror movies than any other kind of movie, and like I think it's just like because there's so many of them being made, and like there's just so many more good bad horror movies, and like if people do have like Sky or Virgin or some kind of like digital TV thing, the horror movie channel like has some very good bad movies on it very frequently. Like I will, like most weeks I would just go through the week on my remote and be like, never heard of that film, I'll record that. Never heard of that film, I'll record that. And like you like the ones I think of, the one that always comes to mind is a film that was called Bed of the Dead, which is just this. Can you guess what the film's about? Like,
is it a zombie sex film?
Oh, close. It is about it's about a bed made from an old gallows that if you go on it and then leave, you die. So all these people are stuck in this bed that they can't leave, otherwise they die.
Wow.
And I'd recommend watching Bed of the Dead. It is. Again, I think they were trying to make a good movie. I think they thought they had a great concept with that, and it just didn't come through, sadly.
So, tying into your thing about technology, heard of Wakaliwood?
I have not.
Have you heard of Who Killed Captain Alex?
No, this is all making me excited though.
Oh, some guys in Uganda. They have very little in terms of equipment, but I think like in the noughties, this guy managed to like get a load of money together to buy this HD like video camera, which was like top of the line at the time, but managed to record all these films with just his friends, all these action films like Who Killed Captain Alex, which is the classic, and that's one that's been memed. But honestly, right, respect to him. Like Vice did a documentary piece on him, which yeah, and if you were to just look at it and be like, this looks absolutely unrealistic. Like that's just a JPEG of a helicopter flying over the city. but it's got the soul there, and it was made to entertain and made by people just love it.
Yeah,
but they weren't trying to make actual action or like Hollywood scale, but they're just trying to make to the scale that they could. They were trying to make the best one that they could, and they've entertained millions.
Yeah.
You can find Who Killed Captain Alex and a lot of Wakaliwood stuff on Amazon Prime as well.
I've made a note of it. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
But that kind of approach of like is that kind of like die-hard approach of just trying to make a movie it pays off for lots of people. Like Peter Jackson's Bad Taste was shot over like half a year's worth of weekends with his mates, and that's like his first feature film. And like all the alien heads were like made in his mum's oven, and like they're all like kind of different shapes because the oven couldn't like maintain temperature properly. So like all the alien heads, but like he made that movie, and then and everyone knows who Peter Jackson is now. Like he had what he had available to him, and he made a movie with it. There was that period where in like that whole like New Zealand New Wave where like I don't know whether Peter Jackson's technically part of the New Zealand New Wave, but he's like one of those like directors who in a country that didn't really have a lot of cinema being made, like he just kind of shone really bright. And then is it, I forget whether it's Bad Taste or Meet the Feet, what's his horrible Muppet film that he made called, but like I can't remember what film he made next, but like Peter Jackson's early work to me is all so full of character and love, and but you see that in the Lord of the Rings movies as well. Like there's a lot of like love from just a craft point in making those movies, like making a table that's 10 foot long so you can do a weird forced perspective shot on somebody. And it's like really, really practical filmmaking. Like all of the like Lord of the Rings obviously has got some CGI in it, and like at the time what was some very groundbreaking CGI, but everything that could be real in those movies was real. Like like you could have had if you've got like a group of like 30 orcs, you could CGI them, but they'd be like, oh no, we'll just make 30 orcs. Like he has like a really, what I kind of feel like you're talking about with Who Made Captain Alex. It's just like this real desire to make something that is like entertaining to people, and like I'd say like Bad Taste and Dead Alive are like really, really like movies made to entertain. They are very silly, especially Dead Alive. Dead Alive has got another name that I can't remember. But that's like, if you guys have not seen those movies, like seeing how Peter Jackson started is like really, really special. Like, because he's actually not made that many movies. He's like, he made like he's obviously made the 6 Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies, but they're like his later work, if you think about it. And he made like 5 movies before that. So yeah, he's made 11 movies, which is amazing. I've not made 11 feature films, but when he's like such a powerhouse name that with not the biggest filmography to his name, if that makes sense. He's not someone like I'm trying to think of a filmmaker that's made lots of films now. Like I just keep falling short.
So like the director equivalent of Eric Roberts.
Who's Eric Roberts, may I ask? Sorry.
He's an actor who's been in like literally everything. Yeah,
or like Kevin Bacon. It's just like it's
Bacon points.
Yeah, Bacon. It's like I think like Wes Anderson has made a similar amount of movies to Peter Jackson has. You wouldn't
equate those two in that way. And then you were like,
Yeah.
Again, Wes Anderson's another filmmaker that is really interested in practical effects and doing things practically. Like, have you guys seen the Grand Budapest Hotel?
Bits.
But like a lot of the like CGI,
Bits,
the CGI in that movie is like models and like practical things and like just like. Obviously, I don't think there's anything wrong with CGI. I love Marvel movies, so I clearly can't have a problem with CGI. But like that's one of those things that people will like poo-poo so easily. But like go circling back to Fincher, like all the blood in The Girl in the Dragon Tattoo is CGI. There is no real blood in that movie. That is unreal. Her fringe is CGI. And there's really would like, I kind of do have a lot of respect for like people who just want to make with what they have and not getting obsessed with like the fanciest toys, essentially. Like when I make films, I always try to I like working with people who aren't necessarily actors as well, which is like, if the job of cinema is to like, it's the job of some cinema is to like capture reality in a certain way. The best way to do that is with things that are real. Like, what's the point in going to a room which you're shooting in an office and you're like, and it's already lit how an office would be lit, and then turning off all the lights and bringing in 20 other lights to recreate the look that you just had. It's like, I'd get maybe bringing one or two lights, definitely, to like do some punch up and keep lighting consistent. But if you're like kind of like, to me, that kind of like cinema verite approach, and maybe even is a little bit dogma, to just be like, see what you already have and like work with that. Like, there's not a lot of the most expensive effect in Bad Taste are these heads that he made in his oven. And when you're watching the film, you can tell that the aliens are just guys with heads on.
Yeah.
I've made a note of Captain Alex, and I'll probably watch that tonight.
You won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
On YouTube or Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and is it the one was Ghosts Can't
Do It?
Ghosts Can't Do It, starring Donald Trump.
Starring Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Have you seen that pizza advert where Donald Trump takes a slice of pizza and then eats it by the crust?
I mean, just like a human being. Oh, is it? Is that a stuffed crust advert?
Yeah.
Well, I think Pizza Hut's slogan at the time. Slogan at the time was the pizza you have to eat backwards. But they did also just get the weirdest guy in the world to do it as well.
Oh. Back when he was just a reality TV star, now he's many different things.
Yeah. I think the word hero comes to mind. I don't know why. I mean, I am very, very jealous because, the people who get to write about this part of history in 100 years' time, we're going to have so much to talk about. It's going to be it's going to be so unreal. Like, lucky guys, and it's all been documented on Twitter and on the internet. You can literally get like a play for play, essentially, can't you? Because when you study World War One, it's always the letter from some letters from the trenches. Like, but in our letter from the trenches in 100 years' time are going to be what tweets did he send?
Oh, it's like, all these scientists said that all this, but Doris from Northampton thinks otherwise. It is unreal. We don't need masks. Blah blah. Because the trouble is with the internet that it's a great resource, but it's just full of other rubbish.
Yeah,
like just people Like they talk about, oh yeah, got
Yeah.
freedom of speech, but you also have the freedom to shut up, the right to remain silent. People need to, they need to do that more, don't they? Just shut up.
There's a lot of misinformation out there. That's the problem.
It's
So much misinformation. Like I saw that I saw this article, right, and this woman was trying to say that COVID was fake. So she took a picture of a place in hospital, but it was like the corridor. I'm like, that's not the place where the patients are going to be, are they? So
yeah, I think the COVID patients might be in quarantine.
yeah.
On Facebook,
Oh.
I got an ad. Oh.
I'll bring us back from this because I kind of brought it up. 5 years time, every bad horror movie is going to be about COVID, and we're going to have to prepare for that emotionally. This will be there's going to be a really big like set of films about COVID, and one's, I reckon, in 10 years time, one will win an Oscar, definitely, like a drama film starring either Benedict Cumberbatch or who you going to cast in? Who you going to cast in your COVID drama?
He was in the Brexit film, wasn't he? 2
He
years
wasn't
after
it? Yeah,
Brexit,
yeah.
So, yeah, 2022
Yeah,
next
he was,
year. It's going to come out. But no, if you look
Michael
on like
Bay's
Mandy,
making one apparently, isn't he?
what COVID?
Isn't Michael Bay? Yeah, he's making one about the coronavirus mutating or something into something more deadly.
A very tactful filmmaker as well. So I'm glad he's the one that stepped up to the board.
Hey guys, have you seen this advert on Facebook? Who's a film or something? I just can't remember what it is. But first thing it come up with, COVID-23 is running rampant. You're like, that is just no. Yeah. But no, you look on like Mandy or whatever, like whatever you go to see, like film jobs and that. You guarantee like every week or so there's one that's, oh yeah, this is about a pandemic, and that's just yeah. And when you go to the cinema, you know, when you got all those adverts that come up, only about 2 of them just weren't about, oh, we're sticking together, oh, we're going to get through this. It's like, bro, we come to the cinema to escape. I just don't want to be like, oh, I wanted to walk out and just walk back in as soon as the trailer started. But
it's
good luck with trailers. There weren't anything coming out.
Yeah, it's like if you think about the films that people made after the other, like some of the other biggest events of the past 100 years would be World War I and World War II, and after that, war films became really popular and then kind of died out, and then became, you know, when Stephen made Saving Private Ryan, became very popular again. Like, so, yeah, exactly. Like on that whole trend, it's like what's gonna come after this is we're gonna get COVID movies, and it's just I'm gonna have to live with them. We're gonna get films that will teach us that COVID was bad, and we'll all have learnt that from those movies. Not from living through it.
Difference is that a war is like a group effort, and like you know who the enemy is. You can see the enemy. With a virus, read somewhere that apparently if you take all the SARS-CoV-2 virus in the world, it would just feel like a 500 milliliter beaker.
Oh, lovely. Let's do that. Let's do that and then throw that in the bin. Is that an option we could do?
Oh, wish. But it just shows like how little of it there is, but how much there is out.
Microscopic.
Yeah, it's very small, but there's a lot of it everywhere.
Yeah, it's in 10 years' time that I know I'll be sat going through the week on Sky to see what's going to be on horror movie on the horror channel, and I'm going to be recording all these COVID movies.
COVID-29 or something like that.
Did any of you guys see that that Gwyneth Paltrow Contagion movie?
Yeah, Yes.
I mean, that's a bold move to put Gwyneth Paltrow in your movie and then kill her in the first 10 minutes. Spoiler for them. She got Optimus Primed. She got Optimus Primed. But Bryan Cranston and Godzilla in for the first 10 minutes. Then killed. Is it spoilers to talk about something that happens in the first 10 minutes of a movie? I don't know. Like it's like I tend to have the 15-minute rule of movies anyway. If I'm not entertained by the first 15 minutes, I'll turn it off. So like, because time is limited.
Yeah. Like you can't watch every movie ever made in your lifetime.
Yeah. And thanks to streaming, very easy to find another movie to watch instead.
Oh, going back round full circle.
Yeah,
you keep making circles.
If you need a callback, Jeff, I'm there. I can set up something in Act 1 and then bring it back for the climax.
Well, that's the hallmark of a good writer.
Yeah, what's it called? Chekhov's gun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am trying to like. That's again, it's the mark of a good filmmaker is just knowing what things are called and not ever actually doing them. Trying to think of to bring it full circle. Trying to think of Chekhov guns in Snyder movies. I don't think they're written with that much pre-thought. Yeah, it's yeah.
Should we wrap up? It's been like nearly 2
we
hours.
should.
I mean, I promise you you wait for 4 years' time when the Josh King cut of this podcast comes out and it's 4 hours long. And I'm wearing a different coloured shirt and we had to put a mustache on Hayden. You're like... So, I just want to reiterate, people can like whatever films they want and I don't care. It's just like, to me, he's an interesting filmmaker to talk about because what we already said, he's made so many mistakes and keeps getting all these second chances. And like, obviously some of them were personal things that happened in his life, and that's okay. But he made a lot of tripe before all of that. Like, that Watchmen movie is interesting. I understand why Alan Moore absolutely hates it. But like, it's just interesting to talk about because, like, I can't imagine any other filmmaker like having that career path essentially.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if I was to make a bad feature movie, people would probably be like, probably won't work with Josh again. It's a really bad feature movie. But I guess as if they keep bringing cash through the door, that keeps everyone happy, doesn't it? I assume like Justice League made like hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't know how they're going to make another 10 million from is the new version coming to cinemas, because it's like 4 hours long, so I assume it's probably, and also cinemas are closed right now.
Are they in America though?
You know what? It probably wouldn't be shocked if they're not closed in America, because restaurants are still open there, aren't they, as well?
Yeah. Well, it also depends what place in America, because it's just so big, isn't it?
It's it's on HBO Max. Yeah. Well, it's like I don't actually understand how Netflix makes money to make the amount of content Netflix makes. Like, how much is my Netflix is like £8 a month. I can't. They're
raising it next month.
Are they raising it? Even the basic package?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they are.
Got an email yesterday.
Yeah, they are.
Might be time to cancel the old Netflix then.
Oh.
Yeah, because all I do is watch the occasional movie and essentially Always Sunny over and over again.
Well, they started filming Better Call Saul recently.
Oh yeah,
and that's in Albuquerque. Started filming. Going back to Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. That's filming in Toronto. I know COVID isn't too bad in Toronto, and their COVID thing is everyone gets tested every day.
Yeah, it's like those big productions can like afford to run essentially because everyone gets a lateral test in the morning, don't they? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And then
that takes that half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if you can deal with having your tonsils rubbed every day, which I'm not sure I could.
Oh,
Although I
that's
think
not the worst bit. It's like the nose thing. I didn't know I had that much space inside my head. I'm bro, where's my brain?
For me, mate, it's you can put this as my filmmaking quote. It's always the tonsils, mate. So that's the worst bit for me.
Oh.
Yeah. Just think up there, you've got that little rover on Mars looking up at us, talking about this. Well, down, I guess up is all relative, isn't it? You want to say looking down because you imagine the planets to be above you, don't you? But
well, Mars is flat. So...
yeah, that's the thing. Is Mars flat? Or is it just the Earth?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and another episode of Fine Cut Podcast. Thank you very much, Josh King, for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll expect all the hate mail for slagging off Snyder.
Yeah, Josh's email in the description below. Yeah, Hayden and Jeff signing off.